Manual labor, men and women, working with their hands, built this country. They built homes and towns and railroads, connecting them all across this nation. And when their working day was done, they gather and sing songs and tell stories about a working man's hero of legendary strength and kindness. He was a natural-born man, a larger-than-life character who could swing a 20-pound hammer with ease. Yep, there's only one man who could swing that hammer. This is the story of John Henry, originally written by Rorick Bradford in 1931, but this is my version. He was as big as a mountain, had arms as thick as oak trees, and could pick a whole field of cotton in one day. And he had a voice like the angels themselves. The night John Henry was born, lightning filled the night sky. Thunder that sounded like laughter filled the night air. Before John Henry was 6 years old, he was carrying stones for workers building a nearby railroad. By the age of 10, he worked from early in the morning until night. Often, he would stop and listen to the sound of a train far away. He told his family, "I'm gonna be a steel driver someday." Steel drivers helped create pathways for the railroad lines. These laborers had the job of cutting holes in rock. They did this by hitting thick steel drills or spikes. By the time John Henry was a young man, he was one of the best steel drivers in the country. He could work for hours without missing a beat. People said he worked so fast that his hammer moved like lightning. John Henry was almost 7 feet tall and weighed nearly 300 pounds. He had a beautiful deep voice and played an instrument called a banjo. John Henry married another steel driver, a woman named Polly Ann. They had a son. John Henry went to work as a steel driver for the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad, or the C&O. The company asked him to lead workers on a project to extend the railroad into the Allegheny Mountains. The workers made good progress on the project until they started working near Big Bend Mountain in West Virginia. The company's owner said the mountain was too big to build a railroad around it, so the workers were told they had to force their drills through it. This meant creating a tunnel more than 1.5 miles long. The project required about 1,000 workers and lasted for more than 3 years. Pay was low and the work was really hard. John Henry was the strongest and fastest man hired for this project. He used a hammer that weighed more than 20 pounds. People said he could cut a path of 25 to 30 feet a day. That July was the hottest month ever in the history of West Virginia. Many workers became tired and weak in the heat. John Henry was concerned his friends might lose their jobs, so he picked up their hammers and started doing their work. In 1 week, he did his own work and that of several other steel drivers. He worked day and night, rarely stopping to eat. The men thanked John Henry for his help. He just smiled and said, "A man ain't nothing but a man, but a man's got to do his best." The extreme heat continued for weeks when one day a salesman came to the work area with a new drilling machine powered by steam. He said it could drill holes faster than 12 men working together. The company planned to buy the machine if it worked as well as the salesman said. The supervisor of the workers, though, dismissed the salesman's claims. He said, "I have the best steel driver in the country. His name is John Henry, and he can beat more than 20 men working together." The salesman disputed the statements. He said the company could have the machine without cost if John Henry was faster. The supervisor of the workers called to John Henry. He said, "Hey, John, this man does not believe you can drill faster. How about a race?" John Henry looked at the machine and saw images of the future. He saw machines taking the place of America's best laborers and told the supervisor he would never let the machine take his job. His friends all cheered. However, John Henry's wife, Polly Ann, was not happy. "Completing the Gansett machine will be the death of you She said, "You have a wife and a child. If anything happens to you, we'll never smile again." John Henry lifted his son into the air. He told his wife, "A man ain't nothing but a man, but a man's got to do his best. Tomorrow I will take my hammer and drive that steel faster than any machine." On the day of the big event, many people came to Big Bad Mountain to watch. Even early in the day, the sun was burning hot. As the competition began, John Henry kissed his hammer and started working. At first, the steam-powered drill worked 2 times faster than he did. Then, John Henry picked up a second 20-pound hammer and started working, 1 hammer in each hand. Once in the mountain, the heat and dust were so thick that most men would have trouble breathing. The crowd shouted as clouds of dust came from inside the mountain. Pollyanna and her son cheered when the machine was suddenly pulled from the tunnel. It had broken down. Pollyanna urged John Henry to come out and take a break, but he kept working faster and faster, digging deep into the darkness, hitting the steel so hard that his body began to fail him. He became weak, and John Henry fell to the ground. There was a terrible silence. Pollyanna did not move because she knew what happened. John Henry lay there, lifeless, still grasping 1 hammer in his hand. "I beat him," he said. Pollyanna cried out, "Don't go, John Henry!" "Bring me a cool drink of water," he said, and he took his last breath. Friends carried his body from the mountain. They buried him near the house where he was born, and crowds gathered there after they heard about John Henry's death. Soon, the steam drill and other machines replaced the steel drivers. Many workers left their families looking for work. They took the only jobs they could find, and as they worked, some made up songs and sang about John Henry.